Not too many poker vlogs going to start in a location like this. Great Basin National Park in eastern Nevada along the Utah border, and the Lehman Caves is where I am at today. Made a trip out here for work, and what a fun one it was. Some really cool video. Speaking of video, my appreciation for all of the kind words that you guys had to say after the intro video last week. Obviously, for those of you that really know YouTube, you know that I was not able to monetize that video, which isn't really a concern to anyone, but obviously when you put a lot of work into something like this, you'd like to make a little bit of money off of it. But I just kind of decided that, you know, I really want to do this. I'm going to have this the rest of my life. It's going to be great. I think people will love it if I just don't make any money off this particular video to get that song in there from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. By the way, nobody guessed the other source of inspiration for that video. There were two. One of them was very new. See if any of you guys can figure out where I got the other idea for a part of that intro bit in the comments below. Anyway, obviously no poker here in the middle of nowhere, eastern Nevada, so I'm going to jump on Highway 50, known as the loneliest road in America, and I'm going to haul ass back to the pepper mill and play some cards.
Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yo, I got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave. 6 feet deep under, but my body won't decay. Cause my messages are timeless, so they'll put them on display. Oh yeah, I rap with a certainty, I have a sense of urgency. A message for eternity, for everyone internally. I had some people burning me, but now they fucking learn to see I ain't the one to fuck with. Now they looking nervously, and I don't really care what you think of me respectfully.
And show up at 2 o'clock hoping to get in there for the start of the second 5-10 game. And sure enough, that's exactly what I would get as they'd fire it up on table 5. It was a game featuring some of the most known players in our area. Mr. Z in for 2,500, Ms. T in for 5,000, and one half of the Double D's a pro in for 5,000 as well, so chances are fireworks were going to be happening in this game. I would just buy in for 1,000, and I'd lose over 300 of it with pocket kings before I could even start rolling video on a hand in which both of my kings were black, and the entire board was diamonds, and I ended up letting it go on the end. The first hand that I can show you would come when Ms. T would limp MP1, and I have pocket 7s in the hijack, and make it 50. The button straddle folds, and MP1 is the only player to call here. So with 115 in, the board comes out 5, 6, 8, 2 hearts. And the hand immediately gets interesting as she comes out over betting the pot, making it 200. I'm not nearly as deep as I'd like to be here with the chance to win a big pot, but folding is still out of the question. And if I jam all in now, I'm going to force out a lot of the hands that I could potentially have beat here. So I decide to just make this call. And with 515 in the pot, the turn is an offsuit queen, and now she checks. If she has an 8 here, there's still a chance that she will not fold if I jam all in. But I think there's a better chance that she doesn't have that good of a hand, or she just would have bet it herself. So I decided to just check this hand back here and hope to improve on the river, which does not happen. It comes an offsuit jack. She does check again though. Thoroughly confused, I decide to just check this hand back, and she shows ace king, and the pot gets shipped in this direction. If you like king-high flops with 2 spades on them, then both of these next 2 hands are for you. The first one comes when we get a limp fest. I have 8, 9 of diamonds in the hijack, and I take part in that. The cutoff is an unknown who decides to make it 70 here. Both Mr. Z and Ms. T decide to call this raise, so that's going to sucker me in. And with 280 in the pot, the flop is king, 6, 7, 2 spades, and no one bets. The turn is a beautiful 5 of diamonds, giving me the straight. Big blind bets out for 150 here, and the low jack decides to call. I settle on a sizing of 325 here, hoping to get them both to come to the river with me. I actually thought the cutoff might be the type that would slow play a set of kings here, but obviously when he snap folded, we know that wasn't the case, but I was hoping it might be. He folds, but sure enough, the big blind and low jack both decide to call here. So with 1,255 in, the river is a terrible card for me. It is the 8 of spades, bringing in the front door draw, but they both check. Now, I only have $400 left here, and I am extraordinarily confident that if either one of these players had my hand beat, they would not have checked it to me on the river. So I have the best hand, and with less than a third pot size bet left here, I don't see the downside to just betting it all and hope that one of these two players will call me with a two-pair-like hand. This is one of those situations where when you actually do the math on how big the pot is, your bet is not very big, but it's still a spot where you can bet less than this, hoping to get called by the hands that they might have here, because it just seems so unlikely that either one of them has a straight or a flush that a $400 bet as opposed to a $175 bet just seems so much more difficult to call. And that was the mistake that I made here, as they both ended up folding quickly, and I do think that I would have had a good chance at getting at least one river call based on the ranges that they're probably going to show up here with, should I have just bet that $175. Either way, they both muck, and the pot gets pushed to me. All right, we are getting a look at true style on Kayla Corner. Now, let me ask you this question. You just have a natural sense of style. Like, how did you attain this?
You just got to be as fabulous as I am.
How do you feel about the fact that so many viewers want to come here as a result of Kayla Corner?
Oh, I just am absolutely flattered, so make sure you say hi when you do.
And is the casino open 7 days a week?
Yes, but I'm not here.
The next hand I got a late start filming in. It was one in which we get a limped pot against the same two players and one other. I have ace, deuce of spades, middle position 1. With 45 in, the board comes out king 9-4, 2 spades, and Ms. T decides to check under the gun 1. I bet 25, and both her and Mr. Z in the cutoff call. So the three of us again here, and with 115 in, the turn's on offsuit 6. It gets checked to me, and I decide to bet 75 here, and this time, Ms. T, the only caller on my immediate right. And with 265 in the pot, the river is the 7 of diamonds. I brick out, but she checks. My biggest concern was that she also had a draw and paired up along the way, and I had a feeling I would need to and could bet to get her off said pair. So I settle on a sizing of $150 here, and she starts to think about it. But unfortunately, doesn't think about it all that long and calls, creating a $565 pot, which I lose to her pocket jacks, which were slow played before the flop. This is a mid-session update. In the show Ted Lasso, he makes a joke about Field of Dreams while coaching soccer in England. Nobody gets that joke. To those of you who watch this in England, would that be the case? Would nobody in England know a Field of Dreams reference? I need to know. I would then lose back just under 300, trying harder than I should have to chase down a queen high flush, but only ended up rivering a pair of queens on a king high board and ended up laying it down on the river. So a couple of flush draws cost me some money, but the good news was I would raise pocket tens, and despite getting called by a tough player, which was, by the way, a game with multiple tough players in it, I was able to get 3 streets of value on a good board with just my pair of tens. We then see Mr. Z and the pro get into a large pot, and on the other table, Slick was happy to find out that poker doesn't have taunting penalties.
Give me those chips! Love you, bro. Work 'em. Cagney's the best player ever.
After that failed bluff against Ms. T an hour earlier, I'd get a chance to redeem myself in this hand. I'd raised a 40 under the gun with Queen Jack of diamonds and get 3 callers, including the pro on the button in the rock and Ms. T in the big blind. So with 160 in, the flop comes out Jack 6-5, 2 hearts, and I bet 80. MP1 decides to call this bet. The pro folds, but the big blind doesn't. So, with 400 in the pot, the turn gives me 3 jacks. Big blind checks. I decide on a sizing here of $210, which results in MP1 folding. But the big blind doesn't take too long with it and makes the call. So with 820 in, the river is an offsuit 4, and she checks. Obviously, if she's missed a draw, I can't get any more value here. So I figured I had to target her medium pocket pairs that could put me on a missed draw. So I just bet 300 here. And It felt like she might throw the hand away, but after giving it some thought, she finally decides to pay off by tossing in a hockey puck, creating a $1,420 pot, which obviously gets shipped in this direction. All right, it's the second massage in vlog history. Sierra's back. Sierra, did you see that when I had a big hand and I bet into 2, she folded, and then when I bluffed her, she called me? That's why she's the best? Do you see that? She's an absolute beast. So are you going to break your 6.5-hour massage record anytime this year? Is that going to happen?
I haven't broke that record in a year.
I think that record is like the Cal Ripken Jr. of massaging.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to beat that.
No. But if they do...
If they do, I can do 7.5 hours.
I just feel like you just have incredible endurance for this thing at this point. I feel like...
It progressively gets worse as the massage goes on.
Wow. All right.
Honesty, right?
Over the next 2 hours, I would stay hot. And while I'd guess I won about 8 pots over the course of that time, none of them were all that interesting. But the good news was I was up about 2,000 on the day. This next hand, though, the low jack would limp, and the cutoff overlimps. I have pocket jacks on the button, and make it 60. You probably won't be shocked that both of these players call. And with 185 in, the board comes out 4-4 deuce, 2 hearts, and it gets checked to the cutoff, who goes all in for her last $210. My hand is almost certainly ahead here, and it's obviously a call I'm going to be making, so I toss in the chips. Then the low jack, who is a young woman I don't know, and I can't even see her face because it's hidden by a mask. The only thing I know is that I hadn't seen her play a hand of any significance all day. She now slides in $475. Now this is just never a spot where you see players bluff, and obviously I shouldn't use the word never. I mean, pretty rarely do you see a bluff in this spot where you know the hand is going to get shown and you're kind of raising into a dry side pot here. So I was sure that I was beat. I wasn't sure how I was beat. I was just sure that I was. So it hurt to do because I knew I had one player beat almost certainly, but I had to lay down the pocket jacks. The low jack turns over 4-5 of diamonds. The cutoff, queen 6 of hearts for the flush draw. The trip 5s would end up holding up. It's always weird when you don't see a person play a hand for several hours, and the hand that they finally choose to call 60 with pre-flop is 4-5, but whatever. It was a minor blemish on an otherwise very productive evening. I'd buy a hockey puck from the player on my right, so I'd have 2 to take home and would rack up the remaining chips before getting out of there, booking the win. Cashing out, booking a win of $1,712. If that's not cash game poker for you, I don't know what is. Last week I lose just over $1,700, and this week I win just about that much back, save for like 80 bucks or so. A little bit disappointed that I ended up being against an opponent who hadn't played a hand all day and somehow managed to have a 4 in that last hand that you saw there. Otherwise I would have been looking at a really good day. Obviously ran good, picked up a lot of big hands, and most of them held up. That'll wrap things up.
Of everything you know that you could get, don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget. I use them all to push me to my best. So treat the worst of times just like a test. If only I could go back in time, I'd tell myself that everything will end up alright. Just push yourself, test yourself, figure out what you like, and find your limits, don't be rigid, always work towards a prime. Surround yourself with open minds, people can change your life. A few friends with intent can help you feel alive. Find a passion, take some